is the final one. And we have had people join us from all over the place, whether you're from Torrington or people who've had a formal connection to Torrington or former connection to Torrington, or those have just been interested in the various topic. We just want to say thank you all for joining us. We've really appreciated it. And we're amazed how far and wide people are coming from. So if you continue to write in chat where you're joining from, we'd love to hear it. None of the programs that we've had would have been possible without the generous support of Connecticut Humanities. We really appreciate everything that they do for us and all of our educational programming. As our speakers are talking, we ask that you stay on mute. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them in chat. Down at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the chat button. And then at the end, we'll unmute it again so that you have time to ask additional questions if you'd prefer to ask them live. So I'd like to introduce our presenters who you guys already know. Olympic medalist Joan Rosazza, and hold on, we've got
no, she
not muted here. You'll just put those people on mute so that we can hear. Okay, so Joan Rosazza, our Olympic medalist, and author Bill Ryan, who is going to tell the story of Joan's journey from Torrington girl to Olympic medalist. So Bill recently wrote the book, One Woman's Journey, Joan Rosazza, Melbourne, 1956, and he's generously donated a number of those books to the Historical Society. They're signed by both Joan and Bill and are available for purchase. So if anybody is interested in purchasing those, they'd make a great holiday gift or give you a little bit more information and more photographs than what you might see tonight. So please reach out to us by email and we'll make sure you get your copy. And thank you very much, Bill, for the donation. So since their presentation tonight is on Joan's life and Bill's journey along with Joan as he was writing this book, I am just going to turn it over to them so that they can tell you all about it and they can get started. So thank you very much, Bill and Joan, for being here with us tonight, and we're looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's been a journey for me collaborating with Joan on the book, and I'll just dive right in. So Joan, we're going to cover Joan's life from basically from when she was 12 to when she was 20 years old, so her teenage years. And so the basic story that we're telling tonight is about a swimming race in the Olympics in 1956. Now, Joan was in two races, and in the book, both of them are covered. And a real treat tonight is I have a video of the first race that she was in. And Joan and I are going to do the play-by-play of that video. And it's incredible. Now that's not in the book, obviously, so it's going to be a real treat to watch that. So Joan was in an individual race, and then she was in a relay race. And this is the story of that race. And it's also the story of how Joan got involved in swimming. So here's Joan's silver medal. We did a book signing in Chatham this summer. Quite a few people from Torrington came. It was just a love fest there. And as you can see, Joan and Priscilla are holding the medal. And you might say, well, where's the ribbon? You know, because today you see the Olympic medals have ribbons. Well, back then, that just came in a little case. There was no ribbon. So it's a beautiful silver medal, both the front and the back, and that's a real treasure. Joan, do you have anything more about that?
No, just keep going. You got it.
Okay. Here's Joan as a young girl in Torrington. Like the first communion picture, maybe, I don't know. But then there's the house that the Rosazzas grew up in on Riverside Avenue, 22 Riverside Avenue. 22. This is a contemporary picture of that house. It looks like it's still in very good shape.
See that stump? That was a tree. I forget. We used to play.
Right, a climbing tree, I hope.
Right.
So you'd be forgiven to think that organized sports for women were always around. But back in the 1940s, there weren't any in Torrington. There was no baseball, no basketball, no track, no swimming. Organized sports, meaning team sports. I mean, kids played in the neighborhood, but there were no teams. There were boys' teams, but no girls' teams. Now, in 1940, in the late 40s, a former Olympic swimmer came to town, Doris Murphy. She was married to Joan Murphy, who was the superintendent of schools.
And
she was a former Olympian. Yeah.
She was Bill's aunt.
Yes. And she swam in the 1924 Olympics. And she had many wide connections in swimming, and she was an Olympic swimmer herself. And so she decided to start a girls' swim team. And she went to the Y, and they said, yeah, sure, girls' swim team. But unbeknownst to Doris, she would soon discover an exceptional athlete in Joan Rosazza from Riverside Avenue. So I'm going to read Joan's first day when she got onto the swim team. My mother was very big on exercise. During the winter, we four siblings couldn't get outside and exercise that much. So she sent us all to the Y to swim. I hated it because I was so cold all the time. What I did was I would get in my bathing suit, put my hand in the water, sit out and take a warm shower afterwards. When I went home, she'd say, did you go in? Now, my Irish mother had told us kids, if you lie to your mother, when you die, your hand will stick out of the grave. I knew I couldn't lie, so I would say, I was in the water. Then one day, this woman appeared. She told all of us girls that we had to line up and swim one lap. So I was nailed. It was Doris Murphy, of course. I got in there and swam for my life, and she told me I was on the swim team. Now, think of your own life growing up in Torrington or wherever you grew up. And when you were 12, you had a small circle, which would expand as you went through your teenage years. And Joan's circle back then was her home on Riverside Avenue. She went to St. Francis School downtown on Main Street. And the YMCA pool was up there on Prospect Street. So that's Joan's beginning circle of this fantastic story. This is a picture of the girls' swim team in the 40s. And you might recognize some of the names in here, maybe some of the people in here, but maybe some of the last names, you know, familiar last names in Torrington. You know, Sue Minery's in here, E. Minetto, quite a few Torrington people, and maybe you're related to some of them. Joan is in the first row, second from the right. So now the team is formed and they're swimming at the Y, and they're competing in swim meets against other Ys that had girls' swim teams. And there was a boys' team too. So they would be at a meet with the girls and the boys, or maybe it was just a girls' meet. So now they started traveling around to other Ys. And they also went to Yale University, which was the best pool in the state at the time for some of the big meets, you know, like the AAU meet. So Doris Murphy grew up in Yonkers, New York, and she had wide connections in swimming. And now the Y teams, as the years went by, they started to travel outside of the state. And one day they were going to a meet in New Jersey. And Joan, was it a big snowy night that night? What was going on?
Do you want to hear that story?
Yeah.
So we're going to this meet, and it's called the Metcalf Memorial, and I'm about 15 now. And we are driving 2 carloads and 6 kids in a car. And it starts snowing, and I'm in the car with Mr. Metling, who was driving. And we go off through Litchfield, and we keep going, and all of a sudden, the car's not working. So somehow no cell phones, obviously, but he must have gone into a house or something and called. And within probably a half an hour, Mr. Wall arrived with an empty car, not dressed as a lawyer, and had chains on the wheels, which meant, we weren't going to go sliding all over the place. We piled in, took our stuff, and off we went. And we get to New Jersey, and all I knew was that it was called the Metcalf Memorial Meet. So we don't know where it is. There's no such place. I forget what, maybe Newark we were. And so finally we talked to a taxi cab driver and had him taking us toward swimming pools in the area. There weren't a whole lot. And we found the place. So we went running in, and we get inside there, and they told me that the 100 free has already happened. And but they allowed me to swim it by myself. Now, to that point, I had probably done about 1:05 for 100 yards. That's practicing 3 days a week and no time in the summer. And I got in there and I swam 1:02, and I made the finals, and then I won it. But I think another exciting thing for me was that there was a woman in there who'd been in the 1952 Olympics in Helsinki. And just to be in the presence of two Olympians just kind of sealed it for me. That's what I want to do. Right.
Great. That's awesome. The circle's getting bigger. Now Doris Murphy is getting on a train with Joan and 2 or 3 of her teammates. And they're doing a 24-hour train ride down to Daytona to swim at the national championships. And Joan did very well there. She went there for 2 years, and she also found that there were a lot of women there from Purdue University swimming. And so Joan applied to college at Purdue. And one day she said, well, I like the swim team and it sounded pretty good. And one day Mr. Hogan called her in into high school and says, so you only applied to one school? Yeah, well, you got in. Is that right, Joan?
That's right. Yeah. And in fact, it was the only school that had college students swimming on a team that was not honored by Purdue, because we had to have a water show to raise money for trips. We traveled from Indiana to Daytona, 6 people in a car. And we didn't have anyone to swim against. It was just the nationals. There were no other teams at all in the area, but that was the place I wanted to go. And the coach, he was amazing because he didn't have to do this. He did this and had us swimming with the boys team. And, as I say, he's one of the 3 people who opened doors for me that allowed me to get that far. It was he, it was Doris Murphy, and it was my family that never said girls can't do sports, ever. They honored it, so.
Right. So the Purdue team, they had an official men's swim team coached by Dick Pappenguth. And Dick started a swim club, the Lafayette Swim Club, which was not recognized by the university. They did practice in the Purdue swimming pool. So they had the facilities, and he coached both the women and the men. But the women had to sell visors for 25 cents at football games to raise money. They had to do swimming carnivals to raise money for the team. So just like in Torrington in the 40s, and then this was in the 50s, there was very, very few opportunities for women in athletics. So that's the next circle. Well, there were a lot of other good swimmers along with Joan and at Purdue. And 3 of her teammates, along with Joan, set a world record in April of 1956 in Daytona. And there's a photo of this here. And this was a precursor because the Olympics were in December in Australia. It was the Summer Olympics, but it was in Australia. So the summer in Australia is in our winter. So this was leading up to that. So Joan was certainly blossoming as a competitive swimmer and had some really good coaching and some really good friends and teammates. So now we're on to Australia, halfway around the world, 19 years old, stopped off in LA for a training camp. Now Joan starts writing letters. And when I started asking Joan if we could write a book, she said, oh, by the way, I wrote letters home and my mother saved them all. I fell off my chair, completely flabbergasted. And the letters are in the book. And when you read these letters, Joan wrote almost every day. She brings you right there into the Olympic Village, right into the locker room before the races, and all the friends that she made. Those letters were great, Joan. Awesome. Do you have a comment? Why you wrote them every day? Was that a hobby? I'm not a hobby, but a thing.
We had a family rule that when you were away to college or wherever, you had to write home once a week. You know, you couldn't phone. Well, you could, but it would cost, you'd need a mortgage. But anyway, so I just wanted to keep them up to date. You know, I mean, we're so far away, what, 6,000 miles away, and also keep them up to date on what was going on, and
Right.
share that experience with my family because they couldn't be there, you know.
Right, and the letters would go, you know, by airmail. So the results of this was not on television. The Olympics weren't on television. You couldn't stream them, and they couldn't do replay, and so you know the telegrams would go out reporting the results of the races, and then the letters would follow, like a little bit faster than the Pony Express. You know, airmail, and the Rosazza family on Riverside Avenue would get the letters a few days or maybe even a week later. So now on to the video. So the first race that Joan was in was an individual race. It was the 100-meter freestyle, up and back. So it's a 2-length race. So the second race that Joan was in was the relay race with her teammates. And that was about 5 days later. And that's where they took on the rest of the world. The second race is where Joan wins her silver medal. I'm still looking for a film of that race. I hope to find it someday. So it wasn't just one race. It was like, you have to race 3 times. You have to race every day for 3 days. Qualifying 35 swimmers. You have to get through that and be in the top 16. Then you have to, the next day you swim the semifinal. Only half of those swimmers made the final, and Joan made the final. So Joan, what can you describe that 3-day period and like where you finished after each of the races?
In the first one, the qualifying, I was 14th, which meant that I could make it to the semifinals. And I got very determined, and I was giving everything I had, but I had to do better. So when the 16 of us were racing, I went from 14th to 7th. And that 7th got me the second to last person into the finals. So
right. And in the semifinals, there's only 8 swimmers that can swim at a time. So the semifinals, you're not swimming against 16 people at once. You're swimming against 8. And then there's another race of another 8, right?
Right.
Right. So Joan made it to the final as the 7th seed. So here's a picture of the swimmers in the final on the starting blocks, the teeny tiny starting blocks. which looks like you could almost fall off. So Joan is at the very, very far end in lane 1 with the white cap. So how did she get to lane 1? Well, in swimming, the fastest swimmers get the middle lanes. So lane 4 and 5 are Dawn Fraser and Lorraine Krapp, who qualified 1 and 2. So that's like, and so then it goes out from there. So Joan was 7th, so she got lane 1, and the 8th swimmer got lane 8. So why did they do it this way? Well, because if you're in the middle of the pool, you can see your fastest competitors. There's no swim goggles back then, and it's hard to see. So over in lane 1, Joan can't see Dawn Fraser. So that's how the race is played out. It's kind of unique to the sport of swimming. So Joan can see the person next to her, Virginia Grant, and possibly can see Faith Leach.
I think all I saw was the wall. Really?
Right. Really, yeah. Well, there's no goggles like today. You can see much better, but yeah. And lots of waves because it's a sprint race. You swim as fast as you can. There's no pacing in that race, right, Joan?
Right. Right.
Here's a picture of the swimming blocks today versus back then. Also, there was no electronic timing. There were people with stopwatches, and then there were judges leaning over to look to see who finished. So quite a different era. Modern Olympics, we have touchpads, goggles, fancy suits. Everyone wears a cap. I think only 3 swimmers wear a cap in this race. Okay, so now I'm going to bring up the
I have
race.
a quick question. Can anyone see me,
Yep.
or do they just see you?
I can see you. Sue?
And everybody else? Yes,
I
they're
can
not.
see you
I didn't
too.
know that.
We
Okay,
can see you.
I better get my act together here.
No, you're good.
Okay,
We see you when you're speaking, and when
Okay.
Bill's speaking, we see him.
okay.
So Joan, here we go. We're about to start the race. What are your thoughts while you're on the blocks over there in lane 1?
I'm just thinking, this is it. You know, this is what you've been working for 4 years. I don't want you to have anything left at the end, which I didn't. And whatever I do, it's going to be my best. So wherever I come in, it's my best.
Were you nervous?
Not really nervous. I think more determined. I'm going to do this. This is it. I'm
Right.
going to
So you were ready.
give it everything. Yeah, yeah. We'd had a good time in the locker room ahead of time. We're just, you know, with other athletes and joking and singing songs and everything. And then it gets serious.
Right. Right. There was, okay, so here we go. This is in slow-mo. So we'll see if we can do a little play-by-play. So take your mark, here they go. I think at the start, you'll find that no one in Ray came up with an advantage. After the first 10 yards, things were about even. Now, Joan in lane 1, Joan breathes to her right. And here you can see that the race is about even in the first 10 yards. Joan is up at the top of the screen with the white cap. And she's breathing to her right, so she's looking at the wall. She's not looking at the swimmer in lane 2. So there's Joan right under the feet of that guy that's walking. You can see there's 4 swimmers ahead of her. The 2 Australians in the middle of the pool are eking out a little bit of an advantage. And the swimmer in the bottom in the white cap, now watch, she screws up her turn, and she does an open turn. She doesn't do a flip turn. Now that cost her dearly. And she was ahead of Joan at that point. Now the two Australians are coming out at the front. There's Joan is probably in sixth at the wall. Now she's in fourth or fifth, I think. And now she's breathing to her right, and she can see Ginny Grant in lane 2. And when Joan sees somebody in front of her, she tracks them down. Do you have any comments, Joan?
No, it just, oh, there's Philip. Just,
Right.
so. No, I don't remember what went through my head. Just that go, go, go.
How was your turn on that?
I
Here's the
don't
turn
know. I
again.
hated turns. I just, I felt like I couldn't breathe as much as I needed to. I'm not a distant person.
Mhm.
But
So right at the end of this race, after I rewound it back to the turn. So there's 3 swimmers at the top of the pool. The 2 Australians in the middle are going to come in first and second. They were head and shoulders above the rest of the competition, and they set a world record. Dawn Fraser did. So the
They were
race for third place,
right.
the race for third place is happening at the top of the pool right here in the last 5 yards. And it's really a photo finish. You can see Joan's white hat there coming in. And it looks like a fingernail touch right there. Now there's no touchpad, so the judges have to decide who came in third. And they spent what? How long did they spend discussing it, Joan?
Maybe 5 or 10 minutes deciding, right?
Yeah. And they gave third place to the other Australian, Faith Leach. So Australia got all 3 medals.
That's Dawn Fraser, unbelievable athlete.
Yeah. And this is just the lineup of the pool before the race starts for first the middle lanes. So that was a very exciting race. I hope you enjoyed it. And we're going to go back to the slideshow.
Joan, can I ask you to tell the story about Philip in the audience and about your volleyball playing?
Sure. Do you have the picture?
Yeah. I'll go back to that.
Philip is Duke Philip, who became Prince Philip, and he was there to open the games. And he, whoops, right in there. Yeah, and yes, right. He would travel around, he traveled into the village to meet swimmers, or not swimmers, athletes, period. And the way it was set up, we had all the women were in one section with this big like chain link fence around it. And the men were everywhere else. And we were playing a volleyball game over the fence with some of the men. And he came by and stopped and played with us. And so I didn't meet him personally, but I played volleyball with him. that was it. But we
I think he was Duke, but not Prince, right?
Not yet. No,
Prince,
not
yes?
yet. Right. But yeah, there were a lot of people who became well known who were there, and Bill Russell and
Bill Russell and Casey Jones, you had
Casey
lunch with them right
Jones,
in the village.
right. Grace Kelly's brother was a rower there. There was this guy who used to appear on the Wheaties box. That was the big thing. I forget what his name was, but anyway, no. And we had at every practice a full stadium. The Australians loved swimming, absolutely loved swimming. They still do, I think.
Yeah, and it was sold out, right? I think they regretted that they didn't build a bigger stadium, because when the tickets went on sale, they were sold out like that. Very exciting.
Not the Torrington Y, right?
Yes.
Long step.
Okay, so Joan came in fourth in that race, photo finish. And every person, every swimmer who didn't win a medal would receive a diploma, beautiful, very large diploma for their swimming in the final. And then there was another race 4 days later with the relay, and the relay had its own controversy and its own drama. For instance, the starter, when he fired his gun, all the swimmers took off, and then he fired it again, and he said that it was a mistake because he was cleaning it. So that added another curveball to that event, and that's all described in Joan's letters and in the narrative. So I drove home just before Christmas, and there was a parade in Torrington, and here's Joan at home. And what are you playing there, Joan?
That is a ukulele. On the way over, we stopped in Hawaii, which was not yet a state, and it wasn't even that long after Pearl Harbor, actually. And I bought a ukulele for a souvenir and had it sent home. And when I got home, I looked at it and it said made in New Jersey. It just, but, and
Cool.
I guess, I think another big part, and I don't know if you're going to cover this, Bill, was the people we met and things we did in the village, or you just want to stay with the swimming?
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't have any
Gotta get the
slides about
book.
that, but you could certainly
You
can
gotta
talk
get the
about,
book.
maybe the people. Oh yeah, right. You met the Hungarians who were undergoing the Hungarian Revolution that started in November of '56, and there were some Hungarian swimmers there, right?
Yes.
Did some of
Oh, yeah.
them
Oh, yeah.
defect?
Yep. Number of them defected. They couldn't go back. Right, because they were freedom fighters, men and women were, and when they got there, the only clothes they had is their sweatsuits that they wore, and we collected clothes for them. But there were a lot
And
of
there was
tragic things that happened even while they were there. So
right, and there was one swimmer, Eva Zekeli, who was like a gold medal swimmer from the previous Olympics, and you befriended her.
she spoke excellent English. She was 32 years old, had a daughter at home. Husband was captain of the water polo team. He couldn't go back. He had to go back for her daughter, but he told us, a lot of what had gone on. And one thing that had happened is that the Hungarians and the Russians, at the end, they had military people all over the place because the fear was that the Russians were going to try to capture Hungarians and bring them on their ship. And but anyway, during the games, there was a Russian star in their badge. Ours, we have that red, white, and blue shield, and they all cut the Russian star out. And Ava gave me hers before they left to go back. And to me, that's one of the biggest treasures I have. I know how much was
Right.
behind it,
Let's see if I can show this. Here's the badge.
Yep, there it is, right.
So in the top, they cut out the red Russian star.
Yep.
So then came the parade. I think it was around December 23rd, actually.
Oh, in Torrington,
So,
right.
in Torrington. And when I was going through Joan's memorabilia, one of the greatest things that I've found were all these telegrams. And you can see they're layered here. Congratulations, Joan, the people of Torrington. Congratulate you, blah, blah, blah. Well, these are telegrams from people in Torrington to Joan, who is in Torrington. So I thought, well, they could send a card or they could call up the house. I don't know.
Right. text.
Text, no texting, no phones, right? No Facebook.
No,
So a float, yeah. Here's the float, Joan. The parade float.
Yeah.
And there's Joan in front of the float. So it came down, I guess, East Main Street, and you were in a
it did.
convertible in
Yeah,
December.
yeah. And that was the parade uniform.
Oh, from the Olympics, right?
Yep.
right.
Opening
So
ceremony.
it stopped, right? Stopped at City Hall, and here's Joan with her parents and two of her brothers, and Peter's missing because he's in France studying for the priesthood. And this is that is a great photo.
It is.
And Joan received the key to the city. Beautiful corsage. Gave a little speech. And also, you had a dinner at the YMCA, right? And then you did some speaking engagements around the state.
Mostly in Torrington, right? A lot in
Yeah.
Torrington. And the high school is one of them, right?
Right. So thank you for watching. We're going to have Q&A right now. The book is available from the Historical Society. And Sue, open for questions.
Okay, I wanted to let you know first, Joan, since I think it's interesting, you know, you started at the YMCA. We actually have someone from the YMCA here tonight. We also have people from the middle school debate team. They're going to be debating the Beijing Winter Olympics and if it should be boycotted or not. I saw the Torrington school students
Oh,
show up and I wondered if they were future Olympians, but it appears that that's why some of them are joining with us tonight to see you.
well, how nice. I'm honored, right?
Okay, let me get back to chat because I know I had a couple questions in here.
I'm going to just hold up the book so if anybody can see it.
We have people from all over the place, which is wonderful. I know I saw some questions. Oh, what does a swimming carnival look like?
Oh, you mean that we put on to
Yes.
to raise money?
Yes.
Just they do some different things. One of them, they had us practicing and doing a water ballet, which was the hardest thing in my life, to be on your back and hold one leg up in the air and not sink. I just admire them so much. In one of them, I did that for 2 years. In one of them, they had me race a seal because I was, you know, the fastest swimmer in the country, woman. And they had a seal in the pool and it got to the other end before I hit the water on my dive. And then the next year, they had a pig. And a pig is supposed to be the fastest swimming barnyard animal. I beat the pig. It was a good race. We did that, and the divers would do things like tell jokes at the end of the board and then land on their stomachs or do funny things. Just a lot of silly things, and people would come to watch it and we'd raise money for our team.
That's a great story. Mary Alice wrote that she was motivated by Rosie, your nickname, which we found out earlier in the show.
Right.
And that she said she embraced swimming as a sport. In college, she swam in the nationals at Indianapolis Auditorium, and that your Olympic relay team was pictured on their wall of fame, and she bragged about you to all of her teammates.
Oh, wow.
They also want to know, did Duke Phillip play volleyball in a shirt and tie?
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's how men dressed mostly. I mean, they really, yeah, he had a shirt and tie on, right?
The other Olympic sport, the other Olympic males were also in sport and tie, or were they in casual clothes?
At the Village, casual.
Okay.
And actually, we did party a bit too. Like the coach would take some of us in to a nightclub or something, and they would dress up.
Great. Other questions in chat? Other questions? People want to unmute themselves and ask questions?
Hi, it's Mary Alice. I'm curious, when you were in the Olympics, did you have to take a year off classes? What did you do with your coursework at Purdue?
Mary Alice, I had to take a semester off. I took the first semester of my sophomore year off and then went back and then went an extra semester after all my class graduated. And I didn't go to summer school. I would work in the summers, but anyway, that's what I had to do. And it was fine, it worked out.
You're getting a number of comments about being such a great inspiration to so many girls. And somebody wants to know if you still ever swim.
No, I don't. I to tell you the truth, I never loved it. I never, it's more like when I was a kid, I'm always cold. And if there were options in other sports that would be below halfway, from what I would want to do. I could do track well. I could, I could run. I could jump. So I would not have chosen that, but it was the gift, that Doris O'Mara Murphy brought to Torrington, and that didn't happen. I wouldn't have gotten there.
And those other opportunities weren't available to women at the time?
None. Nothing.
Nothing.
No.
Yeah,
And
well,
I'll tell you this, my first teaching job was Evanston, Illinois. And they did not allow sports for girls at all in the whole state because competition was unhealthy for women. Chew on that one a bit.
Right. Oh my goodness, must have been very frustrating. How long did it take you to get to Australia? Someone would like to know.
It was propeller plane. It was pre-jet. It was 9 hours Australia to Hawaii. We stayed in Hawaii for 2 days, which was wonderful. Then another 9 hours to the Fiji Islands where we had to stop and refuel. And then another 9 to Melbourne. That's what it was. And we had our own planes. They flew, I think, 9 planes over with athletes in them. And some of them went back and brought more over. We were one of the last ones to get there because our event was toward the end of the Olympics. Right.
It's incredible. Someone else writes, your celebration must have been very special for the community a year after the flood of 1955.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that was really something. Right. But the town was, they were just amazing. They really were. And I felt so honored. And I went back to Purdue and no one even mentioned it.
Is that where you went to school, Purdue?
I was at Purdue. The college didn't mention it.
Huh.
Nobody did. And there were 2 Olympians, another swimmer, a woman from Canada, and me. And we're the only Olympians out of 14,000 people. And, no one mentioned it.
Did they not mention it because you were women? Do you know why they didn't mention it?
No, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm sure that may be part of it. Like if it was a well-known basketball player, or do you know what I'm saying? Or a football player, I'm sure there would have been something, but those opportunities weren't there yet.
There was, Joan did not receive a varsity letter for swimming because even though she swam at Purdue for her time and went to the Olympics. So it wasn't until 1918, Joan, that you finally got in touch with the Purdue
1916 tryouts in Omaha, right?
Oh, right, the Olympic trials in Omaha, where you met up with the coach and the women's swimmers from Purdue, and you got your varsity letter.
Yeah, he brought me, I said I can win a silver medal in the Olympics, but I can't get a letter at Purdue. And he brought me a letter and a jacket, a varsity jacket.
Oh, that's neat.
Really, really, he's great. Yeah.
Well, this is Anne Ruette, and I want to thank you, Joan. The Ruette family were Y brats, and I know Greg's on the phone or on the Zoom call here, but swimming was for all of us girls really, and my brothers, but it was, a relief. But you were always a hero to so many of us, and I thank you.
Thank you,
like
Sandra.
all do.
Sandra Ruette are you related to Sandra Ruette?
I am really, I'm Joe Ruette's daughter.
Okay.
So I think my oldest brother, Mark, but I think he might have been younger than you.
Have been.
Hey, you want to go to the bathroom?
I'm a
Wow.
1968 graduate. I thank Bill
Okay.
Ryan for doing this. We're all swim brats, so
Hi,
Well,
Dan.
I really thank and have thanked Bill for bringing me back to that wonderful time of my life, which I had just put away and moved on. And it's just been very exciting. It's like I'm reading about somebody else when I read those letters. I mean, it's been 64 years. But
Well, Frank and I know Joan and Claire from Pilgrim Church on Cape Cod,
right.
but we've moved back to Long Meadow to be near family. Frank is hidden over here. We wanted to see you so much, Joan. Frank just got out of surgery a couple of hours ago, and we
Oh.
dashed home.
Oh,
And I actually have my bathrobe on, so I'm hiding. But I was also interested. We love Claire and Joan, but because I grew up in Waterbury, and my time swimming was faster than any of the boys, but they said girls couldn't be on the team because they didn't have locker rooms for us when they traveled.
right.
So, and that
I
was
hear you. Right.
that was in the 60s. And my father, we used to watch Tarzan, and my father always said, "You swim faster than Tarzan, and it's not going to help you at all."
And that picture of our coach when she was on the Olympic team, Johnny Weissmiller was on the team with her, and Buster Crabbe, both who played Tarzan. I
Tarzan,
love
right.
that.
Yeah,
And I remember you from the shop,
the shop. Yeah.
thrift shop at church. Sure.
Right.
Oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Other questions, other comments? Yeah, it's an amazing
I can
story
share.
that needed to be told. Thank you both for sharing Joan's journey.
I can show that photo
Yeah,
of
there.
Doris Murphy.
Yep.
Doris Murphy in 1924 on her way to the Olympics, and Doris is in the front row, she's third from the right. Doris is Joan's swim coach at the Y in Torrington, and
Right.
in the back row is Johnny Weissmuller, Buster Crabbe, and Duke Kahanamoku, and famous swimmers. Yep.
And the woman, all right, in the next to Doris, Gertrude Ederle, and my mother had talked about her. She was the first woman to swim the English Channel, and she broke the men's record by 5 hours.
Gertrude Ederle.
And she had a ticker tape parade in New York City, right?
Right.
Wonderful. Any other questions from the audience?
We can't get on live.
I can hear you.
You can hear us talking?
Yes, Polly, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I'm,
Hi,
Good.
Joan. I just have such wonderful memories of our swim meets, the rides back and forth, the team. We had funny names, and I remember yours was Amelia Buttercrumb, and mine was Chlorine Mutsy. And we had a wonderful time. We each had a
We
chance to
did.
be in an individual sport, but we were on a team and we just loved being a part of it. And thank you so much for your
Oh.
memories for me.
Oh, yes,
Good time.
and it's great to see you.
You too.
I've got to tell our children, Ophelia Butter, they'll love that.
Ophelia Buttercrumb.
I love it. There are a few other things, but I can't say them on this. That we did.
All right, well, that was wonderful. Are there any other comments?
Joey Kubish would like to say hi to Joan.
Oh, you're kidding.
We're
Yeah.
the one with the Dobbs on it. We can't figure out how to get on.
Oh, is that Polly?
This is Joey.
Oh, I know Joey, of course. She's I talk to her every week on the phone. She's like my little sister, right?
Right.
Well, I'm kind of your huge sister.
Oh, well, life changes us, doesn't it?
Joan, this
Joey,
is
that's
Jerry.
so nice. Is Polly there?
No,
No,
this is Lori. I've answered the phone and talked to you. a
Oh,
few
I
times.
know, sure. Right. We get on the phone and we laugh at each other, right, Joey?
yeah, we're at sort of a resort now.
They can't see us. Say it.
I think
Joan?
Yeah?
This
Yeah,
is
we're-
Jerry Libby. Sandra Ruett was class of 1957.
Okay.
And do you remember when we met on a beach in St. Thomas?
Yes.
Yes. And you didn't swim that day either.
No.
But we had a very wonderful chat. It was delightful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It really was, right. Torrington people are everywhere.
We have time for one last question? We have a comment, Joan, that says this would make a great movie. So that's going to be your next thing. You have to make the movie of your Olympic journey.
Are you, Joan, are you asking about Sandra Ruett, who married my cousin, Tom Burney?
It could be, yes, because I wasn't in touch with anyone once high school was over. It was just,
Yes.
Isn't that something? Yes.
And
Is
they
she-
lived in California. He's still alive, but she died quite a long time ago.
Oh,
Mhm.
well. that's-
Sandra was on the team, the traveling team to Florida,
Yeah.
I think a couple of years with you, Joan, on the
did.
train.
Yep, right. And we made that fun too,
Well,
Well,
Joan and Bill, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Joan, did you have something else you were going to say?
Nope.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
good.
Joan and Bill, thank you so much for your time tonight and sharing the story with us. And thank you to everybody else on the line that shared your memories and how much Joan has inspired you along the way. Joan, you're really a trailblazer for sure in being an inspiration for other young women. So
Well-
thank you so much. Somebody wants to know what actress would play you in the movie. So you guys can think
I'm
about that
thinking,
tonight.
can Meryl Streep swim?
Sure.
They're going to get Katie Ledecky to do the swimming part.
She'd look like something in one of those suits. wouldn't she? But I really want to thank everybody for being interested in this. I'm just very honored, and it's just a special time for me and the Historical Society too, to go through all the planning, and you've been great, Sue.
Didn't Mary Alice say?
Guiding
Oh,
us.
thank you. We're really pleased to have you both. So thank you so much to everyone. I hope you all have wonderful holidays, and we will see you back in the spring. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Right,
Good
thank
night.
It was a
you.
lot of fun.
Night.
Thank you. Okay,
Thank
good night.
you.
Bye.